Water beads. I got introduced to these a couple of weeks ago, and when I saw them I was thinking, make great abstract images. Pictures I've been seeing were using the water beads as water drops on flowers or on any item in particular, using them as focal points. But I hadn't seen many of them done in large groups. If you haven't seen these before, this is what they come into. Packets. You can buy them in multicoloured, clear, all sorts of different ranges of colours. Soak them in water overnight for about 12 hours and they grow to around this size. My first setup that I came up with was using the Adaptalux with 2 white arms and diffusers, shining the light through a jar full of, as you can see, coloured water beads. I've placed the jar on a turntable. I can get more images, different shots, different colours just by turning it quite easily, instead of moving the lights and moving the whole system around. First setup and trying of lenses was 50mm lens at f4 with a 13mm extension tube. Ambient light would be turned off, as you can see. Got some nice light coming through. Just moving the light in and out gives you some nice shots. Of course, it's quite nice. You can actually see through some of the beads. So you can see the bead behind or different colour through some of the gaps. Another option was me shining 2 white arms onto a piece of white card and using the reflective light against the jar shining through. Turning the room light out first and then taking pictures as before, seeing what you like. And moving the light around a little bit if you want it here and there. Currently I've been taking the shots of the beads without any water surrounding them. I've taken them out of water, as I mentioned earlier, which had been soaking in overnight. I just placed them into a jar. But if you add the water back into them, you get different effects again. Some of you may recognise this basic design as something that Lee Hall came up with a few months ago. If I remember right, he was using it for bubbles rising from the bottom upwards. All it is, in my version, is 2 pieces of glass from clip art frames. I have some plastic U-track and I've basically glued it on around the outside. What I'm going to do here is pour the beads basically into the tank. You'll see I've put a row of clear beads at the bottom. It's just to help keep more colour to the top than the bottom. The only thing I will say is, warning about these, they do bounce if they manage to escape. My first setup using the tank is pretty much similar to one I used earlier with the glass jar. I have the Adaptalux with the 2 white arms shining onto a whiteboard and letting the light shine through the beads. The board itself is about 4 or 5 inches away from the back of the glass. Allows me to get the most out of the light source. Second setup, as before, 2 white arms, 2 white filters on the end. It's got a bit more of a concentrated point of lights using the 2 filters like this, but it does give you a more of a point of impact in lighting. final setup, a bit more tricky to capture in the image, but shining the light from the front through the coloured beads onto the card at the back, some nice abstract colour. As with the jar shots, all of these in this tank, the beads have been soaked in water, and of course no water added to the tank. But watch what happens when you add water back in. The water beads take on a completely different aspect and look.